Hi readers, it's Lori. Welcome back to my channel, Books, Ink, and Paper. Welcome back to my stuffed up head. I'm telling y'all, this is something. It is just something. But I'm not here to talk to you about COVID or colds or flus or pneumonias. I'm here to talk to you about February's anticipated reads. So I have selected I think 10 titles, which I try to stick to about 10 each month. And I'm going to talk to you about each of those and the order in which they will be released. I will say that I talked to you about Good Dirt by Charmaine Wilkerson in January, which was supposed to be a January release, but I looked today when I was doing some research, and it's actually coming out in February now. So that's kind of a loose end from last month's anticipated read list. So if you've been waiting for Charmaine Wilkerson to come out, it's not quite there yet, just so you know. All right, so A Killing Cold is the first one that we're going to talk about. This comes out on February 4th. This is Kate Alice Marshall, and this was my Book of the Month Club selection for this month because it is an early release. So this will not be again released until February the 4th. However, it is available as a Book of the Month Club selection if you're a subscriber. This is a thriller, mystery, fiction book. And it's getting some good buzz. So I have not read anything by Kate Alice Marshall before, but I do have What Lies in the Woods. So it is possible that I could read that as a backlist title and then get to A Killing Cold. It's funny it's called A Killing Cold because I have a cold I feel like is killing me. But my Book of the Month Club shipment has been delayed. So it's been a little frustrating for me because I just today got an idea of when it was actually coming, and it was supposed to have already been here by today. So I don't know. Anyway. Theodora Scott is the main character in this novel, and she meets a guy who's wealthy and he has a powerful family, and she wants to meet his family because she's really in love with this guy, like this whirlwind romance. He brings her to a place called Idlewood, which is his family's isolated winter retreat home. So she just thinks this is going to be amazing, and she's going to meet his family and everything's going to be great. But she's also received some weird messages on her answering machine that tell her to stay away from Connor Dalton and that there's something sinister about his family. Then when she ends up going to this Idlewood winter retreat that they own, she finds a photo of herself as a child in this house, and that she has apparently been there before but has no memory of it. So this probably is now your evidence of why I chose this as my book of the month. It feels like a really creepy, isolated, wintry read that I am down for. I feel like I'm going to read this pretty quickly if it ever gets to me. So that one is, again, A Killing Cold by Kate Alice Marshall, and it's expected to be published on February 4th, and it already has over 3,400 ratings, and it's at a 4.03, so I feel pretty good about this one. The second one also comes out on February 4th, and this is Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray. This is a very interesting one. So this is about a woman whose name is Jessie Redmond Fawcett. And W.E.B. Du Bois, a real life character, meets Jessie, and he asks her to help him with a magazine that he's publishing called The Crisis. And he wants to feature young authors, young Black authors, and he wants her to help him find them. So she finds County Cullen, she finds Langston Hughes, and she finds Nella Larson, and she tries to get them to produce content for this magazine. Meanwhile, though, Jessie and W.E.B. Du Bois start an extramarital relationship because he is married and she's a very young girl. And And so then she is tangled between this desire to be a successful editor and to support Black authors, young Black authors in this new way, but also is she in love with him and what will happen as a result of their relationship? So, this is not for those of you for whom extramarital affairs are very upsetting. I would not suggest that you read this one, but this is historical fiction based on real life characters and really takes a look at the Black experience in this time and these particular characters. And is this true? What happened? I don't know, but I'm curious about it. Also, I love this cover. I absolutely love the color choices of this cover as well as just the way that it's designed. I just think that's brilliant. So that's Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray. All right, the next one is called The Mother Next Door, and this is Medicine, Deception, and Munchausen by Proxy, written by Andrea Dunlop and Mike Weber. This one is nonfiction that reads like fiction, according to the synopsis, but it is definitely a close look at Munchausen by Proxy. If you're not familiar with this is when mothers are overly sensitive to the health concerns of their children and continue to bring them forward for treatment to doctors and others when there maybe isn't anything actually wrong with their child. So are they making their child sick in order to get attention? Is this a psychopathic behavior? Is this a cry from women who are looking for help of their own? What causes this? How do practitioners discover that this is happening? There's just a lot of misinformation about Munchausen by proxy, and there's a lot of data out there, and there's a lot of stories that these particular authors really bring forward. So this includes some information about a Seattle novelist whose family was torn apart by Munchausen by proxy and by what occurred as a result. There's a lot of evidence about a case in Texas. There's also some evidence about some other choices that some women made that they have stories and information about. It just seems like a great but sad, terrifying story, true life stories about different children and women in particular, and how to address this, how to figure this out. Like there's just so much here. It's very complicated, and I feel like this one is one that I would definitely want to read. So it's a memoir, medical, obviously about mental health, and it is something else. I'm hearing a lot of people who have done pre-reading of this are really impressed by this. And again, it's apparently a fairly quick read, although it's over 300 pages. Jojo Moyes is an author that I have read a few books of, and she has a new book coming out on February 11th called We All Live Here. And I haven't read a Jojo Moyes in quite some time, so it might be time for me to get back to her. This one is getting some pretty good buzz so far, and it is about Lila Kennedy, who's got so much happening. Her marriage is ending. Her daughters are not easy for her to apparently be with or to to control. She's got an elderly stepfather who's moved into her house. Her career is going crazy. And her dad, who she has not seen since she was, I don't know, 35 years ago, I think, or something like that. She hasn't seen in a really, really, really long time. Shows up on her doorstep, which of course feels just like the last possible terrifying thing that could happen to her, except that I think what's going to happen is that this is going to shift some things and create maybe some peace or some reunification or some reconnection. You all know I love a family drama saga. This sounds like a lot of drama llama happening inside this family, but I definitely think that it is it's a story about a woman in a tragic family dynamic that maybe has some hope available to it. So I really think that sounds like it's right up my street. And again, this one comes out on February the 11th, and it's called We All Live Here. On February the 18th, Another nonfiction title is Lorne, the Man Who Invented Saturday Night Live by Susan Morrison. And this is just what you think it might be. This is a book about Lorne Michaels, who was the person who invented Saturday Night Live and has created and continued to create Saturday Night Live episodes all these years later. So, what inspired him to do this, and how did he put this together? And how not only did he put it together, but how did he continue to keep this in the forefront as people still watch it today? We used to watch this like regularly as a family, and we were really SNL fans. And then over time, I have to admit, our interest in it waned. People would come and go. There were a lot of moments where it wasn't jiving for us in the same way. But there have been some amazing comedians that have become incredibly famous as a result of this opportunity. But ultimately, this one is focusing on, I would assume, how he created and maintained this all these years later. I will tell you this. This book is 656 pages long. So it is definitely not for those of you who are looking for a quick, easy read. But I don't know. It sounds good to me. And like I said, it might be a good kind of a romp back through the life of SNL. I mean, it's just, I still love it. I mean, I still get excited about it. I just don't watch it in the same kind of level of consistency as I used to, but I think it's fun, and maybe you do too. All right, on February 18th, as well, The Quiet Librarian by Alan Eskens is selected to be released on that day, hopefully. Alan Eskens is an author I have read one book by, The Life We Bury, something. The first one, the Joe Talbot book, I read. And then I got the second one and haven't gotten back to it. One of my friends in a book club really likes Alan Eskens, and so recently she was talking about him and had him on her wish list, and I thought, I'd really like to kind of get back to that. And then here he pops up in my February anticipated reads list. So this one is quite complicated, but this is, I don't think, connected at all to the Joe Talbot series. But it is about a young woman named Hannah Bobbick, and she's a librarian in Minnesota, and just trying to kind of carry on with her life. And she gets the news that a friend of hers, a best friend, has been murdered. This brings back this past life that she has. So she, 30 years ago, was a teenager in Serbia, in Bosnia. And Serbian soldiers killed many of her family members except for her. And she then became somewhat legendary as a part of an organization called the Night Mora. And she was undercover, I guess, in that space. And so somehow the murder of her best friend is connected to that time when she was somebody else doing something else. And so now she has to take care of herself and protect herself, and then also hopefully find out what happened. So she's not the quiet librarian that she seems to be. She's actually been someone who has had a bounty on her head for a long, long time. Does that sound like it's right up my street? Absolutely. Absolutely. So historical fiction, mystery, thriller, 2 timelines, I'm sure, and a wild ride, I think. All right, so the next one is The Dressmakers of London by Julia Kelly. I have read one other book by Julia Kelly, The Last Garden in England or something like that, years ago, but I really enjoyed it. And this cover, it's just the colors of it. And so Julia Kelly is a very prolific author, but this one is one that I don't know, something about it just works for me. So there's a woman in Great Britain in the 1940s who has a dressmaking shop. Her husband dies some way, and so she's having to make a living for her and for her girls. And so she opens up this dressmaker shop, and the girls grew up in this space, but the mother wants them to kind of have a different life than she had. She doesn't want them to have to work this hard. However, the mother dies, And then she's left the dressmaking shop to the girls, and they both have to inherit the dress shop and both have to decide what to do with it. And I guess they're not quite as pleased with the fact that they've inherited this dress shop, but they also have to figure out how to stop it from closing. So it sounds like something that I would enjoy, a little family drama, a little family saga, but also I really liked Julia Kelly's writing before. And I don't know about this one. It's billed as historical fiction, World War II. However, the one I read before had a present day timeline and a past timeline. So if that's her kind of way of writing, that this might be the case for this one as well. And I love something set in London. Like I'm all in. All right. You're going to know why I picked this one in just a second, but this is Back After This by Linda Holmes. Linda Holmes wrote Evie Drake Starks Over. I had to think about it a second, and another book I can't remember the name of. I have not read anything by Linda Holmes. However, this is why this one appealed to me. So this is about a woman who's a podcast producer. Her name is Cecily, and she agrees to produce a new podcast about modern dating. But also, the caveat is that she has to be coached by or mentored by a life coach, dating coach, influencer named Eliza Cassidy. Look, y'all, as a professional coach, I get a lot of digs about like, oh, she's a life coach. Oh, she does this stuff. Like it's very frivolous, but it's really not. And I really have to kind of overcome that. So this book probably propagates that belief that life coaches are, crazy things that came out on sitcoms, but we'll see if this is one that I end up taking a look at just to see how it goes. But anyway, she would rather do anything, Cicely, than have somebody talk about her dating life and to put all of her life out there on this podcast. But she has to do it for, I guess, because she needs the money probably to be successful. But there's also another like insertion of a guy that she has a crush on. And so there's something that's going to occur. So a little light, you needed something romance and light, right? After all these other heavy books, a little light, little contemporary, a little humorous, maybe a little fun. It sounds good to me. So that is Back After This by Linda Holmes. I had to look at it again. I couldn't remember the title of it. And that comes out on the 25th of February. All right, the next one is Show Don't Tell by Curtis Sittenfeld. This is a female author. I think in years past, so I talked about a Curtis Sittenfeld book. I said Curtis was not a woman, but Curtis is. This is a short story collection, her second short story collection. I don't read as many short story collections as I probably would like to do. It's been a long time since I read a short story collection, but I have one that I'm wanting to focus on this year, and this might be another one should I choose to start this. It comes out on February the 25th, and Curtis Sittenfeld has written a number of what sound like to me really fun reads. So one of them is called The Patron Saint of Middle Age, and it's about a woman who is in her middle ages, and she meets up with some people she hasn't seen for a while. They probably all commiserate about being middle-aged. There's one called A for Alone, which is about a married woman who embarks on a project to discover if what's called the Mike Pence rule is actually true. And the Mike Pence rule is that men and women can't be friends without wanting to have more from each other in that relationship. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but it sounds unique and sounds fun. Anyway, there's a number of them in this book, and it is contemporary adult literary fiction, and it sounds good to me. So take a look if you're interested in short stories and you want to read more of them this year too, which I really think I would like to do. All right, and then the last one, which comes out on the 27th of February, we think, is Other People's Houses by Claire McIntosh. I have read I See You by Claire McIntosh, and then I read the first in this series, which is the DC Morgan series, and that first one was called The Last Party, which was set around New Year's, and a murder occurred on an islandy thing, and I enjoyed that one very much. So I ended up getting A Game of Lies, which I think I got from Book of the Month Club, maybe not, by Claire McIntosh, which was book 2 in the DC Morgan series. And this one, Other People's Houses, is book 3 in that series. So I don't want to know a whole lot about this if there's any spoilers to it, but I don't think that there are. But there's not a lot of information about this one on Goodreads anyway, and I have to admit I didn't look a whole lot further than that, but there was somebody that wrote a review on it. And so there is a real estate agent who's in town for a team building weekend and is found dead floating in a kayak. And they're wondering if it was murder or if it was an accident. And then there's a bunch of burglaries that are somewhat local to them as well. This whole area is very kind of isolated, which is what makes these good, I guess, these stories, because you can't go far without people knowing that you went far, apparently. I like Claire McIntosh's first book in this series very much. I enjoyed it, and I have a strong desire to carry on with this. I like this cover too. That yellow of it is quite something and stunning. And I think that this is a like kind of a resort, which as I remember, they all had little houses that were adjoining this, like, was it a river or something? I don't know, but they're all like kind of stuck in this place, and they're always going to be tended by DC Morgan and her partner. Well, her name is Fionn, and her partner's name is Leo or something like that, as I remember. I don't know. Yeah, Leo. So there you go. Fionn and Leo are back again. If you haven't read any of these, I would very highly suggest you start with The Last Party, which is that first one. I think this is an author I will carry on with. Will I buy them all? I don't know, but we'll see. Okay, that is my February anticipated reads. There are tons more out there. Believe me, it's hard to call them down to 10. I've seen a number of them. I did not bring you anything forward in the fantasy genre, but I tried to be hitting each one that I could. But there's a lot of stuff coming out in February. So you will have no trouble finding something that you want to read in this month. So I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if any of these are on your radar or if you are now interested in them as a result of seeing this video. And as always, happy reading. Bye.